Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Matt Capper and there's another video on Raid Shadow Legends. This is also the final in our three-part series celebrating the first 50 champions in the I Built Them So You Don't Have To series. And the first one being my 5 favorite, the second being my 5 least favorite. This is going to be my 5 most surprising. Before we get into that, please, I implore you to like and subscribe and notify. It helps me, it helps you, it helps all the good that is in this world. Okay, it just helps me. But I would really appreciate it. So please hit that sub. It's free. Hit the like button. It's also free to do. And hit that notification. Guess what? Also free to do. Without further ado, let's get into it. It is the top 5 most surprising champions of the I Built Them So You Don't Have To series. Coming in at number 5 is Karem. Now, this is not a champion you'd necessarily build. He's very niche, but I was actually very pleasantly surprised on how well he did in the Dragon Dungeon 20, long before we did the 25s that we now have today. He was still able to detonate and do massive damage against the boss, though of course his drawback being is that he is single target in all his abilities, so the waves would have to be dealt with otherwise. Still, for those of you who have Karem, want a faster dragon time, you might have a lot of poisons, but you just don't have that, the only other two, Eleanor and Zavia. Karem can fit in and work on that Dragon 20 and do amazing damage on the boss. His A2 was actually very surprising as well. It did some pretty strong damage when you built this champion out for full nuke. So there's my number 5, Karem. Number 4 makes it onto this list by the fact that she can actually do fairly reasonable damage. And her A1 heals based on that damage. So whereas conventional wisdom would say, look, this is a support champion. She's got heals, she's got revive, build her tanky, build her high HP, high defense, and just let her go, maybe high speed. The actual best way to build this champion was with full crit rate, good crit damage, so that that A1 heal, which she was using all the time because these are high cooldowns on her A2 and A3, 4 turn, 6 turn, down to a 5 and 3 if you have the books. Nonetheless, this is what really made her important, right, in the group, and the fact that she was able to help me get through Faction Wars 21 on my Sacred Order team made her all the more desirable. At the time, I did have 2 unkillable champs. I had 1 block damage, 1 unkillable with Cernic and Roshkard, but was still struggling on 21 getting through that boss. This fixed the struggle. It was great to have her on the team, and I think you might be pleasantly surprised with her as well. The best thing I ever used to say about Bloodfeather is that she got you 1 step closer to Rosin. However, with Faction Wars, again, she became a whole new level of important. And I'll tell you, she is way better than you think she is. First off, she has a kit that allows you to build her out with only 60% crit damage. You put her as the lead, so you get crit rate. She gets 20% crit rate there, and she gets an extra 20 on each of her turns, which means you build her out at 60% crit rate, more attack damage, more crit damage, because you don't have to worry about getting 100% crit rate. This made this champion so easy to build, and actually made the whole team easy to build, because I use champions where I don't use them anywhere else. At the time, it was a level 50 Kreela I wasn't using anywhere. Seer, I build her obviously 100% because I use her everywhere even back then. But, you know, Vrask I think I used, and I can't even remember the 5th champion. But I actually had 2 level 50 champions with 3, including Bloodfeather at level 60. And the amount of damage Bloodfeather can do is significant. She hits very, very hard. She gives that extra crit rate, which means she can be built for higher crit damage and attack. And I think you'll be very happy with the amount of damage you can get her to do. So number 3 on the most surprising was Bloodfeather. Number 2 on this list was Grimskin, and it's not particularly because he was so amazing, but I just had such low expectations for this champion. He is the arguably the worst of the triplets, right? You have Maneater and you have Shatterbones. Shatterbones has some really good turn meter manipulation. Obviously, Maneater is the unkillable champion of the world. And Grimskin just looks like the not so smart, distant twin, the triplet that poured tar on his head. However, his damage is shockingly high for what he is. He can remove buffs, he can taunt, and this made him kind of, while not critical, fun in Arena, and it's hard sometimes to say a champion is fun to play in this game. So I think that was, I just had such low expectations of this champion that when I finally got around to building him and using him, I was actually quite surprised at the level of versatility and damage that I could get him to do. Before we move on, a couple of honorable mentions, and I show you Knight's Rev. Knight's Rev is, in my opinion, still the hardest of the Faction Wars stages to get through, and it's mainly because you do not, still to this day, have a reliable defense down, which makes Crypt Witch an honorable mention because she does have a two-person defense down, which when fighting this on manual makes it much easier. Keep in mind, I don't have Tomb Lord, who is the champion that has got the defense down. At the time I beat this, I did not have Hegemon, I did not have Solus, nor did I have Thea or Bystafus. So I had a Woolroom and a bunch of epics, but we were able to get through because of Crypt Witch, and she does reasonable damage, by the way. And the other champion, also from the same group, is Pitiless One. I think everyone knows, or most people know, that Faceless you need because he has such high damage threshold. But I think Pitiless One often gets overlooked. He has also a very high damage threshold. And much like the Blood Feather scenario, he's got a crit rate aura, which can help you build out champions for this encounter to make it easier. Since that time of my completing it, other champions have come into play, most namely Rector Drath, which makes this, while a very long encounter, it makes it a much easier encounter. Still, Pitiless One and Crypt Witch were integral to my passing Knight's Rev. The second last or last? They were on the same day. I passed both Skinwalkers and Knight's Rev on the same rotation to get Lydia. But yeah, without them, there's no way I would have been able to do it. So special shout out to those two. When you combine the least developed faction in the entire game with a champion that can actually one-shot or close to one-shot or very hard hit champions, what you get is a surprising addition to the team, and that is Ripper. I will say that the Hippo guy that is coming out very soon, next week, in a patch, will change everything about the Skinwalker faction. But before that, you didn't have a lot of defense down champions, which means you had to do what you could for damage, and Ripper ignores defense. On a 5-turn cooldown, yes, but all of his abilities hit very well. They're one enemy, yes, they hit very well. Also, it turns out that he's actually pretty good in Doom Tower. I have a lot of people, since they fixed a bug that they said was visual that I don't believe, that he was actually doing a lot of the enemy max HP reduction. So you can use him in the Doom Tower to this day if you're trying to turn meter, play around with Scarab, or you can use him in Faction Wars. I was so shocked by how much damage I could get him to do, because multipliers sometimes fool you, and combine the fact that he was able to do so much more damage than I expected with the fact that he's in such an underdeveloped faction. It turned out to be very nice. Now he's since been retired, and especially with the advent of the new epic champion coming into the game, he won't see the light of day again. But I will tell you that I was pleasantly surprised and in a little bit of awe with how much damage he can do. He was fun. Again, another champion that's fun. He was fun in Arena. Just one-shotting champions in Arena was pretty fun. I say fun a lot. Fun. Surprisingly fun. Sorry about that. But there you have it. That is my top 5 most surprising. Looking forward to next week, putting back out new champions. I have a bunch of champions that are soon to be made into I Built Them. So let's go for the next 50 champions. Hopefully by the time we hit 100, we will also hit that 8,000 subs. So help me with that. Share this video, like this video, sub, put it out to the Spider-Verse, and see what we can do to get to that milestone. Thank you very much for joining me in this video. Please be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next video.